And in today's video, I'm going to show you how to make a parametric grid system in Revit. And of course, we're going to use Dynamo to do that. And as you can see in this very quick preview on Revit, that I created like a 10 by, I don't know, 25 grid with a couple of seconds. So you just need to, pop up here and remember of grid you want, and probably the overall length for this direction. And you hit click and you're going to get the results immediately done for you. You can add whatever value you want here, and you can get the amount of grid you want in a couple of seconds. It's a lovely command that can be very useful if you are designing a big project and you want to distribute grids and then dimension and then columns based on the intersection of this grid. It might be not really that useful for those who designed a very small house or a very custom complicated design house, but rather with the more typical grid system, that will be your friend. So let's have a look of how we do that. So I'll close this, and of course I can go ahead and close this file again. So I'm gonna close that, and in the file I'm gonna go new, and in the new I'm gonna browse, and I'm gonna use the metric system default meter here, and in it you should change, actually you must change the units from by hitting U and the shortcut, change it from millimeters to meters, otherwise I believe that Dynamo will crash if you give anything more than 10,000. Anyway, so that's meters, millimeters to meters, so all in the metric system. And in Dynamo I'm going to create new file here, and of course we're going to do grids. So common sense is just to write here grid, and you're going to get the easiest one, which is a Grid.ByLine, of course. And I'm going to work in a backward system, so I'm going to get from the end up result all the way to the beginning of the function or of the nodes. I'm going to switch this to manual. Now we need, of course, as you see, that the end up result is a grid, so we need lines. So you get line by start point and end point. So this is my line. You can just place that in here, and as you can see, the line needs a start point and end point. So again, it's need a points. This is more easy way to deal, is to work it the reverse way or backwards. So control and this one to make a copy of this. And in the beginning, you need to feed the X, Y, and Z of each one of those points. So in it, of course, we need to make a code block here to make a sequence, and in the sequence you're going to get started from a 0, ending up by a value to the range or to the step of a value. So there is, I think, 3 types of array, as I explained in previous videos. You can have a look at them. In here I'm going to specify the distance between, or in this type of array I'm going to specify the distance between the vertical, let's say, grid, and let's say the amount of vertical grid we want. So both of them numerical, so I'm going to hit, or I'm going to add those to it. And I need an X and Y. So the X will be the distance between each grid, and so it's from this one to this one with a jump of that. So the end of the range, so let's need a slider first, and the first one we're going to fit is the vertical numbers, so which will be Y will be the distance. Beautiful. So it's technically here a slider, because this is the amount of vertical grid numbers. So I'm going to connect that, and indeed should be no more or less than 2, and let's the maximum, I don't know, keep it 50 or whatever you want, and the step, the jump with it is a 1, so that's the integer. And this one should be named as a vertical number. the vertical number that you add, or vertical grid number actually. This is the first one, and the other one is the end here is just a representation of the distance between each vertical grid. So it could be normal numerical slider, and you just connect this and you call that distance between verticals grids, and you can specify as much as you like. Here the range depends on what you're going to do. So again, this is just just a code block to create a sequence of numbers. I'm gonna connect them. So let's have a look in here. I'm gonna hit run to have a look first. So it's obviously it's working here. Beautiful. So what do we have? The values, I'm saying it's 2. That's 2, and there's a jump 1 between each. So that's the beginning of the sequence. And let's change the number of verticals that we want. So those are technically 10 now. And the distance between each grid will be 1 meter. That's the distance, which is here. So this is the distance. This guy is the number of vertical lines, and you control it by that. And as you can see, again, Revit is actually doing its best to reflect what it can from Dynamo. I'm going to change that to 2, maybe 5. I don't know. We're just messing around. Good. Now it's working perfectly. So those are my grids here, and it's worked really nice, and it's start up to create the first sequence. This guy on the other hand, it should be have the same X, so you're controlling the same value for the end of those lines, because I'm just drawing lines. So those are the beginning of those lines that represent the grids, and we need the end of the line, so they have the same X. The Y in here is 0 technically for now, and the Y in this one should be controlled actually by another slider. So I'm gonna give a numerical slider here, and I just can't control it or name it as vertical grid length, and I'm gonna hit apply or accept, and I'm gonna add that to the Y, and let's say the end is another 10, and you hit run. So you can see that those are that's the distance 10, and they are technically having the same X. So probably we make it a little bit bigger, so 40. So that's my grid system, as you can see, working perfectly. That's the beginning of the line, and that's the end of the line. And we just can't create the lines we're talking about, as you can see. And eventually, because it's immediately connected to the grid creation, it's been created here as a line, and here it will be creating lines and what you see, grids. And of course, because it's sound very ugly in here, it's really a good idea to hide the preview of those lines in here. You can have a good look in here, and it's actually perfect. So let's flex this. Let's change this. So instead of 10, I'll say 5 working, and the distance instead of 5 I can go 10. Beautiful. So the grid is working nice and smooth. The length, instead of 40 I can say 50, and I hit run, and immediately it's worked perfectly. I will activate this preview just because you might really need to have another look at it to understand what I'm going to do in a couple of seconds. So eventually we need to turn it off for having the correct results for Revit. But in here we're gonna still need them, and you're gonna see why. So I'm gonna select all this and then push that down as such, making the X. So now that's a vertical. We need to switch this to horizontal one, and the distance again, it's a horizontal grid, so on and so on. Now the same thing in here exactly, except that you should give this, just unconnect everything. This guy should go to the X, and those guys should be for the Y's. Now you hit run, and you get your grid again generated, and the grid of line generated with the, generate the points, and then the line will be generated as a horizontal thing, and then the grid, a horizontal grid, will be generated too. So nice and smooth. As you can see, there is one ugly thing in the whole calculation, is that it's all connected as you see in here, and that's really ugly. But before we fix that, as we learned, always flex. So who said it's worked perfectly? Always question your work, flex it or test it. So that horizontal number, instead of 10, make it 5. Beautiful, it's working. And the length of those grid is gonna now really sound ugly, so you need to flex that back. Oops, that's serious. What's what we do? See, that's a nice thing we've done. It's a mistake here, so let's fix it. But before, let me continue flexing this again. 10. Okay, the distance I can make it 2. Yeah, it's working. Beautiful. So 5. Hit run. So what is not working is the length again, and that is controlled by, should be controlled by that. Let's say 50. Okay, it's correct. So why I thought it's wrong, I have no idea. Anyway, too sleepy. What about this one? Just to double check. Yep, it's working. You can, by the way, link this to be fixed distance out of that, which is make it less painful than controlling it manually and make it just automatically. I'm leaving this because lots of people like to add extra dimension here or extra detailing here, or push that away above the fence or before the fence if they have a fence in here anyway. So that's why I'm leaving them. But anyway, I'm gonna show you now, and you can apply this technique that I'm gonna present now for the end, not only for the beginning. So that's an ugly as hell, and you need to create a distance between this and this, so you're going to push the entire vertical grid a little bit to the right, so you can prevent this overlap, and plus providing the space for the chain of dimension that we're going to add in the next video to make the dimension appears automatically. So let's do this. So all you're going to do is the need to add an offset value between the X, the start of the vertical grid, from the beginning of those guys, the horizontal one. So this means you need another slider. So again, a numerical slider, and I'm gonna call it offset, and the minimum value, let's say 1, no more or less. Okay, and I'm gonna add a code saying X plus Y, whatever X, whatever Y. So the Y will be the amount of offset you got, and of course you're gonna give the X value from the code block here. So if I open this, so this is 0, 5, 10, you can see. So I need those to make them 1, 6, 10, 11 actually by the amount of values. So connect those to here, hit a little bit of run in here, come back to this. Now it's worked perfectly. So a little bit of a push in here toward the side, and you connect this. So this is my new X, so substitute those old X with the new X's and hit run, and you're going to see this guy is jumping away from that by the amount of 1. If if I make this 3 and I hit run, you see this guy gonna run away, as you can see by the amount of the offset that you gave. So the same technique you can just do as that's the X. That's the offset. Okay, just hit Control and get that get copied like that. And instead, you can give this here, that's my X, and you give this to, okay, I'll keep the same offset actually, so it's gonna be nice. Both you can just separate them if you want the offset in X different from the offset in Y. It's up to you. So you get this X in here, so you substitute this, the Y value, you hit run, and you can see now you can control, you see, you can control how much distance you want. Let's say 5 from both sides, from the 0, 0. That's much better, of course, but you need probably to come here and increase the length of this. And again, you can just simply do another offset and make this a fixed distance. It's up to you. It's by choice, easily. Just the same thing you've done in here. You're gonna add it to the end up point. So you should be control the amount of distance you get here. So you probably calculate it with the overall range that you can control the Y in it. So that's it basically. Now we have a very basic grid system. It's a fully parametric that it can change immediately by adding or by changing the horizontal numbers or the horizontal distance, and the same thing by the vertical number and the vertical distance. You can control their length, as you can see. One thing before you go is to, now you understand what's happening here. So this is have absolutely no need to stay. See, now you need to get rid of those previews for the grids, and that's your grid fully parametric. One last check is to quickly flex it. So number of horizontal 5 maybe, and I'll change this to 30, the length of them, and you can see they drop it down. Let's flex the rest. So vertical number is 5, and as you can see that's 35 here, and you can see it's immediately changed, and you get your own parametric grid that can help you actually with a really big projects when you have like a 25 grid, and you don't want to waste time on you making them actually manually, and you have to copy paste each one of those grids, and that will waste a serious amount of time. And in the next video I'm gonna show you how you can simply add dimension to this grid and a couple of clicks, so you can automatically add a chain of dimension to both X and Y. And then we're gonna see how we're gonna apply our columns in the intersection of those points in a couple of seconds. So we make a fully parametric grid system and dimension system and column system to be applied and change with a couple of seconds. Thank you very much. I wish that you find this tutorial useful, and bye bye.